FullTiltPoker.net presents Learn from the Pros.
All right, the best way to really learn from the pros, just sit around the table, chat with them for a few minutes. That's what we will continue to do here on FSN. Of course, the Professor Howard Lederer is hanging out, and if you're not privy to the Lederer family tree, let us fill it in a little bit. Sister Annie Duke sitting next to you. Annie, good to see you, superstar. What's up? No, hey, I'm sorry. If you're on Letterman a couple of times, you're superstar. Okay, you can continue laughing about that. We'll move on. Just catch your breath in a second. Sitting to your left, Ted Forrest, never on Letterman, but you do have 5 bracelets.
How are you, Chris?
I'll train him.
It's good enough. It's good. Annie's still laughing over there. Eric Siddell joining us, won his 7th bracelet this year. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Nice to be here.
And this guy, well, he looks like he should be hosting his own late-night talk show. Robert Williamson III also has a bracelet. And Natalie Cladd, might I add. You've got, like, the verticals, you got the horizontals, you got the flowery tie working.
Just found this in the closet.
You look sharp. You look sharp. All right, today's topic, heads-up play. Ted, what goes into making a great heads-up player?
You have to realize you're going to have the best hand half the time, and so is your opponent. So the person that's going to be able to pick up most of those pots where not too much of either of you has too much, where you both have nothing, the person that can pick up most of those pots has a big advantage.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in intimidation when you're playing heads up. I really like to play just about every hand and kind of try and find that bet that's going to force my opponent to either give up or commit a big part of his stack to play the hand. And I think you can just keep putting pressure and pressure, and if you can make a player, you know, it's one thing to kind of try and win those nothing hands, but if you can kind of force a guy to really commit a lot of chips to try and win one of those hands, and then you have a good hand that hand, that's how you bust people heads up.
Yeah, it's a lot about you know, committing small bets to try to pick up the dead money that can get you like a big bet later. So I think that one thing that amateurs don't do very well at heads up is the chopping. And what I see a lot is that either they're like, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to go all in, which is laying a huge price, or they're just completely passive and they're checking everything down. And what the pros understand is that you can make a lot of money just chopping the blinds and just picking up the blinds and picking up those small pots where your opponent doesn't hit anything, and making them finally just get really frustrated and say, now I'm going to make a stand. And, you know, if you don't have anything when they decide to do that, you've risked, you know, a little tiny bit of chips. If you do, you get all their chips at once. So
the reason why I like to do that, chopping away, is I feel like if I chop, and I slowly build my stack, if I do play a big pot with them and say we're 60-40 or 50-50 hand, I can afford to play that pot easier because now I've got them covered. Right. I'm always trying to stay with more chips than them, so if I make a mistake, or if I'm a small favorite or a small dog, I can fade those coin tosses. And I think that's another big advantage to chopping away, is winning. I like to leave no dead money on the table. I try to do kind of what Howard said. I try to find what the breaking point is and either make them make a major decision to force me off my hand, or let it go and just try to find that breaking point.
You know, Eric, in tournament play, you're down to heads-up action. You might, as a young poker player, say, you know what, second place, that's not bad. I mean, that's the worst thing you can say at a table like this. Do we undervalue the difference between a second and a first in this?
There's a huge difference between first and second, as I well know.
Second place, you walk out crying. You walk out 700,000 richer, but you walk out crying.
Devastated.
I mean, first place is often twice what
People don't
second
remember
place
who came
is
in
in these
second.
tournaments. Yeah.
Well, they do one time, but
They do when you're on rounders over and
they
over
do.
and over again.
They do every once in a while, Eric, I promise you.
Then they
but,
know. Then they know.
Yeah, but you know, what I love about heads-up play, I mean, I really like to play heads-up, is just how it's just you and one other player. And, you know, it just seems like after 10, 15, 20 minutes of heads-up play against that one player, you can really, it's all about reading and it's psychological domination. And it's a form of poker that's like no other, because when you're playing at a table, even like a 5-handed table, your attention and the amount of psychological energy that you're putting into your efforts is being spread amongst all your opponents. When you're down to heads up, you are just trying to dominate one person. You're just trying to figure out one person. It's a really exciting form of poker.
Yeah, I mean, you can really get your opponents exasperated, too, which is really nice. I mean, if you're playing a very dominant game where you're picking those pots up, it's so much, like, if you're at a 5-handed table, it's hard to get one player really, really frustrated. When you're playing heads up, it's so easy to get them frustrated and make them just start thinking really poorly and making really bad plays and just committing themselves in bad spots because they're just frustrated and they don't know any other way to beat you anymore.
Well, guys, thanks for letting us get inside your head, at least for a few minutes. We appreciate it. Thank you.
To learn, chat, and play with the pros, go where they live. FullTiltPoker.com.